Hello and welcome to the Federal. This is your host for the program Off the Beaten Track. My name is Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay. The last few years in India have witnessed fast-paced sequence of events. Very often we have not even been able to comprehend the likely impact of one set of events that we got saddled with another set of developments. I am joined by one of India's foremost historians to get a sense of the times that we live in and what possibly lies ahead of us. Now, Ramachandra Guha needs no introduction, and I'm extremely fortunate to have him with me and walk us through India's recent past. The third revised and updated edition of his scholarly work, India After Gandhi, has just been released. Ramachandra Guha, welcome to this program. It's a real delight to be speaking with you. And thank you very much for making time on your very busy schedule. I have on my desk the first edition of your book also from 2007.
Yeah.
So let's start by locating the three time periods. 2007 when the first edition came out, 2017 when the second edition came out, and we are now sitting in 2023. 6 years have gone since the book came out. Now, this 6 years in the book, the latest edition, you say, is actually a very momentous and very fast-paced developments, and have looked back almost at the years, right at the formative years of the Indian Republic or after we became independent. So can you tell us, as to this 6 years, that as a historian, both living in this present time and also somebody who might be able to go in the future and look back, how would you look at what has happened since 2016, when you wrote the last lines of your previous edition, and 2022, the end of 2022, when you wrote the last pages of this book?
So, Nilanjan, as in the preface to this new edition, I compare the remarkably swift and dramatic changes that have taken place the last 5 or 6 years with what happened between 1947 and 1952, when you had partition, the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, and in the midst of a communist insurgency, a right-wing insurrection, you had the making of the Indian state, and people like Nehru, Patel, Ambedkar, Kamaladevi Chattopadhyay, and others coming to unite a nation from its diverse fragments, and helping bring about a democratic constitution, holding the first general elections, integrating the princely states, and so on.
Right.
Now, in many ways, the nation has been transformed radically in the last 6 years, but in a different direction. I argue that what used to be the Congress system has been replaced by the BJP system. So we have a single party that is dominant, but with a very different character and ethos from the party of the freedom struggle. We have radical interventions in the economy, for example, demonetization. The second edition of the book, which came out in early 2017, the last event in that book was September 2016. So I just missed demonetization. So I start this edition with demonetization. Then you have, of course, the application of Article 370. Before that, you had Narendra Modi's victory in 2019, which is an emphatic victory, and the first time a non-Congress government has won 2 successive majorities. Of course, then you have the pandemic, COVID pandemic, and all the suffering that it brought about. You have the conflict with China. You have a creation of a personality cult. You have the protests around the controversial Citizen Amendment Act. And of course, you have this whole question as to where is India going? I mean, what is happening to its institutions? What is happening to its party system? The growth of crony capitalism. I mean, I talk in my book about Ambani and Adani, and of course, and the dramatic growth of Adani's wealth during the pandemic. And now, of course, you see some of that unraveling. So it's been a time of very radical and dramatic change. And of course, it's too early to assess what the long-term consequences will be. But in my view, the Republic is passing through a crisis. It's not the first crisis. It's probably the third or fourth crisis in independence. But it's a crisis marked by the creation of a personality cult, the polarization of public discourse, the rise of religious majoritarianism, and the atrophy of public institutions. These are some dimensions of the crisis that we are currently living through.
Right. When you were listing that what all has majorly happened since 2019, starting with the emphatic mandate which Mr. Modi secured for the BJP, 300 plus seats. Would you say that when we look back, we'll say that the first real indication of what was to come was possibly a rather very harsh, amendment to the UAPA, the law which was actually enacted way back in the late 1960s by Indira Gandhi, and then they brought in a very harsh amendment to it and making it much more draconian than what it was.
Yes.
And then it was immediately followed by the legislation on triple talaq, ostensibly aimed at improving the condition of women within the Muslim society, but essentially playing to the Hindutva gallery. Would you say that when you look back on it 3.5 years back down the line, would you say that you as a historian now would say that those were the first indications that they were saying that this second mandate is when we are actually going to start undermining the fundamentals?
Absolutely. And I think the fact that Amit Shah comes into government as Home Minister, is, I think, indicative of this. I think there's and of course, by this time, Jaitley is ailing and not in the cabinet, and Sushma Swaraj is no longer alive. So even the so-called moderate vices, the hangovers from the Vajpayee BJP are gone. And it's a BJP cast in the image of Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, with it's radical, it's hardline, it's unforgiving, and it's unapologetically majoritarian. And that's what 2019 represents.
Now, you have referred to Arun Jaitley, Sushma Swaraj. You also dropped the name of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Now, if I remind you that Atal Bihari Vajpayee was also as much as a majoritarian as he always was. He, in fact, you also quoted saying that he actually said that the Ram Temple agitation, which is what actually brought the BJP where it is now, actually embodied a national aspiration. That is what exactly he said in Parliament, way back in 2000. Right, the year after.
Right.
At the time when the ceasefires with Pakistan was going on, there was a debate within Parliament on the 6th of December on the anniversary of the demolition. And this is what exactly he said. The words which he used, ki Ram Janmabhoomi Andolan, Rashtriya aspiration, I'm forgetting the word, ka pratik hai, is a symbol.
No, he was a member.
Let me ask you, how is Vajpayee's Hindutva different from Narendra Modi's? Is Narendra Modi's Hindutva?
No, I think there's several differences. Of course, he was a lifelong member of the RSS, like Narendra Modi. In theory, he would have also believed in a Hindu Rashtra, like Narendra Modi. But his was a more consultative, dialogic mode of governance. So he gave much more autonomy to his cabinet ministers, for example, right? And there was no question of a personality cult. I mean, today you have a man, people talk a lot about the COVID certificate and Mr. Modi's photograph on it. But even more gross and abominable than the COVID certificate with Mr. Modi's photograph is a cricket stadium in Ahmedabad, previously named after Sardar Patel, now named after Narendra Modi. So, it's like, there's a majoritarianism of the RSS, but there's a personality cult which is even greater than that of Indira Gandhi. So it's an order of magnitude different. Vajpayee was, he had grown up in the tradition of the freedom struggle. For him, the party was more important than himself. Whereas for Modi and his acolytes, Modi is the party, Modi is the country, Modi is the government, Modi is, India's past, present, and future. And I think Vajpayee had a certain courtesy towards his opponents, which is clearly lacking in Modi. Of course, he was of the RSS. He believed in a Hindu Rashtra, but it was not of this kind of harsh, brash kind.
You were talking about the personality cult. Now, within the RSS, there is a very strong sense of the individual not being more important than the Sanghatan. The Sanghatan or the organization is actually supposed to be very important within the RSS. This is, of course, completely changed, and now they are actually accepting the cult of an individual. How exactly do you see that the dynamics between the RSS and Narendra Modi has changed, and how does it compare with the dynamics what was there in the Vajpayee era?
So I think the RSS defers to Narendra Modi. Partly it may be tactical because they see that Modi has got them political power. Modi has got them closer to their dream of a Hindu Rashtra than anyone else has in the past. Partly it may be a sense of awe. It may also be fear, because that's the kind of personality Narendra Modi is. He inspires awe, but he also inspires fear. But till a few years ago, they would say Vyakti Puja is not a tradition. In fact, Vajpayee and Advani would go out of their way to disparage personality cults because they had seen Indira Gandhi's personality cult in the emergency in which all of them were arrested. The major leaders of the BJP were arrested. Well, I think the RSS has taken a tactical decision that this is the guy who is going to get us political, ideological, cultural, theological, legislative power. Let's join his bandwagon because it looks to be a winning bandwagon. And the scruples and hesitations they had about personality cults have gone out the window because of this, bargain they've made, with Modi. And obviously, Modi dominates them. I mean, I remember when Vajpayee was Prime Minister and Advani was Deputy Prime Minister.
Right.
K.S. Sudarshan, who was then the Sar Sanchalak of the RSS, came to Delhi and Advani went and called on him. Now, there is no question of Modi even giving Mohan Bhagwat an appointment. Mohan Bhagwat has to follow what Modi does. And that's true of everyone in the RSS. So he's an incredibly domineering figure. I mean, he's a bully. He's actually a classic authoritarian. And he has, the RSS has submitted to his will and abandoned its previous opposition to Vyakti Puja.
Why would you say that the RSS has completely, Mohan Bhagwat you're talking specifically, has actually accepted the domineering personality of Modi? After all, he has the cadre with him. The entire RSS network, which is so vital for the BJP winning elections, one after another. So despite having control over that, why do they yield to Modi? Why do they not say
I think
that's not so much of personality cult?
I think they see that Modi is a very effective communicator who is able to mobilize radical Hindus in a way in which Vajpayee and Advani and Joshi and all the other leaders were not. But they of course remain committed. I mean, I think let's be clear about one thing. The RSS represents a dangerous medieval backward-looking point of view. I wrote an essay in the Telegraph maybe about a year ago, where I said the entire ideology, philosophy, beliefs, manifesto of the RSS can be summed up in 6 words. And these 6 words are, we shall show Muslims their place. There is nothing else to the RSS ideology. And Modi may sometimes make noises about reaching out to Pasmanda Muslims and so on. By and large, people support Modi because they think he's putting Muslims in their place. It's that majoritarian ideology that is behind the groundswell of popular Hindu support for Modi. And the RSS is happy about that because that is their ideology. Their ideology is nothing more, nothing less than showing Muslims their place.
So would you say that right from the time India became independent, despite the commitment to secular politics, there was a nascent thinking among the Hindus in the country that this is our country, and the Muslims, they were given an opportunity. This is what we hear. They could have gone away in 47. Those who went, fine. Those who didn't, they must live on our terms. This our and theirs, has been there.
So there's been a debate between those Hindu leaders who seek to bring out the best in Hindu tradition, which is tolerance, open-mindedness, self-criticism, self-improvement. So Gandhi and Nehru were Hindu leaders who tried to recall Hindus to their nobler selves. And there's a bit of ideological battle between this kind of Hindu leader and the other kind of Hindu leader, which is, the RSS, the BJP, and now, of course, Modi, Shah, and Bhagwat, who essentially say this is a Hindu country, Hindu must be triumphant, Hindus must be victorious, and Muslims and Christians live here because of our mercy. They can't stand up and assert themselves as equal citizens. So, and of course, which kind of Hindu leader is having more traction has varied in history. Nehru was enormously popular in the 50s and 60s, for example, right? Uh, um, in many parts of southern India, even today, the RSS is not influential. It's influential in my home state, Karnataka, but not in Kerala, not in Tamil Nadu, not even in Punjab. In fact, I'd say 3 states in which Modi is actually unpopular are Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Punjab. So I think it's something for Hindus to decide. Do they want their religion to be defined by hate, anger, animosity, paranoia, a sense of victimhood? Or do they want to, see themselves as part of a larger community of human beings who can look at each other, who can interact with each other, and who can collectively improve one another? So I think there's a battle for the Hindu soul, which the hardliners are currently winning. But they have lost that battle in the past, and perhaps even they may lose it in the future. So I don't give up hope completely, because the path of the RSS is one of insularity, cultural backwardness. It's not something that will, help make us the country we were meant to be.
So would you say that from what you are saying, that the key to defeating the BJP and actually preventing Modi from becoming the Prime Minister, continuing to be the dominant political leader, lies in the opposition leaders being able to address Hindus as Hindus?
No, I don't say that. I don't say that.
Better Hindu traditions.
No, I don't say that. I'm talking, see, Nilanjan, I'm not a part of any political party. I'm not a political analyst.
Neither am I.
As a historian, I'm saying that at the cultural level, there's a battle for the Hindu soul. At the time of elections, there are many other issues which are not religious, which are material, which are where are the jobs? How are the schools? How are the hospitals? How can our children skill themselves? How can we be assured self-respect and dignity? And how can there be social mobility? So there are many other issues that can come up at the time of elections that are not to do with this cultural ideological battle. So how elections are won and lost is a different issue. I mean, but that one last thing I'll say about about the rising tide of Hindu majoritarianism, and that's what I say in the last paragraphs of my the new edition of India After Gandhi. I say that every country in South Asia is majoritarian.
Right.
So Sri Lanka and Myanmar are Buddhist majoritarian states, in which those who are not Buddhists are second-class citizens. Pakistan and Bangladesh are self-defined Islamic republics. So citizenship is identified with the Islamic faith. And India is becoming like them. It's approximating the South Asian norm, that every state is an ethno-majoritarian state, and whether Buddhist or, as in the case of Sri Lanka and Myanmar, Islamic, as in the case of Pakistan and Bangladesh, and now Hindu, as in our case. So there's a kind of a regional trend which we stood apart from. We were once proud of the fact that we are not like Pakistan or not like Sri Lanka. Not just when it came to religion, but also when it came to language. If you look at the whole history of the breakup of Pakistan, it was because Urdu was imposed on East Pakistan. That was one important reason. If you look at the civil war in Sri Lanka, it was because the Sinhala language was imposed on the Tamils of the north. And India, the Republic of India, prided itself on its religious and linguistic pluralism. And to be a citizen of India did not mean you had to speak a certain language or affirm a certain religious faith. That did not give you any superior position in the Republic. And that, of course, that special status we have lost. We are a mirror image of Sri Lanka or Burma or Bangladesh or Pakistan, except that the color of our majoritarianism is Hindu, not Buddhist or Islamic.
There are a couple of very key events coming up over the next few years. We, of course, have several assembly elections this year. We also have the parliamentary elections in 2024. We have the centenary of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, RSS, coming up in 2025. Also the year when Modi is going to turn 75, along with Mohan Bhagwat, the so-called retirement age, as it was unofficially stated, though nobody would actually going to talk about that or remind that in the context of Modi. Now, given the fact that all these events are to take place and what all has happened in the last 6 years, also looking at the opposition politics, and given the kind of relationship which is there, often at times a conflict between the opposition parties, where exactly do you think that India's political trajectory is going?
Nilanjan, it's always difficult to predict the future,
right.
And particular country as complicated and diverse and unpredictable as India. So I will not venture down that direction, right. Except to say that no route is preordained. We don't have to become more and more majoritarian. Narendra Modi is not immortal. What he has done, in his tenure, is that the stronger he has become personally, politically, stronger he has become, the more politically powerful he has become, the more he has weakened his party organization. I agree with Professor Suhas Palshikar, who is one of our most perceptive political analysts, who says that when Indira Gandhi created the personality cult around herself, when she nurtured a high command culture where all decisions regarding the Congress were taken by her and her advisors in Delhi, she weakened all the state units, which were vigorously functioning, autonomous, bodies which elected their own leaders, had an energy and dynamism of their own. And something similar is happening to the BJP, So once Narendra Modi retires or exits politics, it's likely that the BJP will experience a steady and secular decline, just as the Congress did after Indira Gandhi. Because the grassroots energy and dynamism of the party was all directed towards talking about the greatness of the leader at the top. Right. Yes. Whereas in a country as diverse as this, if you look at the Congress of Jawaharlal Nehru and the towering state leaders, Bidhan Roy in Bengal, Y.B. Chavan in Maharashtra, Morarji Desai in Gujarat, Kamraj in Tamil Nadu, Dizalingappa in Karnataka. You had Pratap Singh Karo in Punjab. Now, in Indira Gandhi's period, you had none of that. They were all servitors and chamchas of Mrs. Gandhi. If you look at Vajpayee's BJP, you had Bhairav Singh Shekhawat in Rajasthan. You had Kalyan Singh in UP. Yeah, you had, Saklecha in MP. You had very important state leaders. And they're all gone. Keshubhai Patel in Gujarat. So they've all gone, right? And I think that's what, excessive centralization and the creation of a personality cult. You just look at the state level. Look at the collapse of the AIDMK after Jayalalitha went.
Right.
And the same thing will happen to the Trinamool Congress in Bengal, because it's only a cult of Mamata and nothing else. So in that sense, that's the only kind of prediction I would hazard, that in the long term, the creation of this extraordinary personality cult, which I have called the greatest personality cult in human history, the biggest personality cult with the most number of subscribers.
Even outside India.
Yeah, because maybe Mao was comparable, but certainly in a democracy, there's been nothing remotely like this. So I think this is going to hurt the BJP in the long run, which is probably good for us who believe in a secular, plural India. I think that part of our history, our tradition, our Republican constitutional ethos can come back to life. Not in the short term, but certainly in the medium term.
Some time ago, you had talked about the erosion of various institutions, as to how they have been hollowed out from inside. You have actually listed, in the new edition, you have listed, besides the party mechanism which you have spoken, but you have also listed the hollowing out of the legislature, the executive, especially the bureaucracy, the judiciary, and of course, most importantly, my profession, the media.
Yes.
Yeah. Our
profession.
Yeah.
I'm also a part-time journalist. Yeah.
You are also part-time.
Okay. So I think Nilanjan, this is something which is deeply worrying. This is another aspect in which Modi follows Indira Gandhi. It's no accident that a few days ago, when there was this harassment of the BBC offices in Delhi, you will recall that the BJP spokesman justified by saying even Indira Gandhi banned the BJP.
Right.
At the BBC, even Indira Gandhi banned the BBC. So this, it's very interesting that in the 80s and 90s, these institutions renewed themselves. The press, the bureaucracy, the judiciary, the Reserve Bank of India, all came to uphold their autonomy and independence once again. And one other thing I'd say in this connection is, if you want autonomous, independent institutions, if you want a thriving federalism, because one of the casualties of the Modi Shah regime has been the decline of states' rights. Yeah. So if you want thriving federalism, if you want autonomous, independent institutions, and if you want steady economic growth, you need coalition governments at the center. I think the governments of Narasimha Rao, Vajpayee, and Manmohan Singh, which were coalition governments, not weak coalitions, not like Deve Gowda or VP Singh. One party at the center, which had 150 or 200 seats, which controlled a wider coalition, I think gave us much more effective governance, did not damage the autonomy of the institutions, and gave a lot of encouragement and space to the different states to contribute to the nation-building process. Now, when everything is decided in Delhi, not just in Delhi, in the Prime Minister's office, you have this evisceration of Indian institutions and actually the attacks on Indian federalism that you're seeing. I mean, one of the most disturbing aspects of the post-2019 period with Amit Shah as Home Minister is how governors have become an instrument of BJP politics. I mean, the behavior of Koshyari in Maharashtra, of Dhankar in West Bengal, of Ravi in Tamil Nadu is absolutely appalling. I mean, we have never witnessed anything like this. This kind of abuse of the governor's office to this degree has never been witnessed in the history of independence.
I would like you to touch upon your thoughts on even the office of the Vice President currently, the kind of statements which are being made, along with the Law Minister, what are being made against the judiciary.
Absolutely. And I think the Vice President there's a, with due respect, I say this, there's a thuggish streak to the Vice President's behavior. And it was manifest in the way he conducted himself as Governor of West Bengal. And he was rewarded for this thuggish streak. Instead of being punished, he was rewarded by being made Vice President. Because there's a Hindi word, dhamki dena. This government believes in dhamki dena. Sabko darao, dhamki do. Threaten, intimidate, harass, browbeat. Those are their methods of dealing with opposition.
So the survey on the BBC office was also according to your dhamki dena to the entire.
Bilkul. That's what it was. It was a dhamki dena chahte the. That was what it was. Yeah.
Now, what you are saying, that a single party government is actually not very good for the political and the economic health of the country. This is what is coming out from.
That's what it appears if you look at our last 40 years of history. Yeah.
The discussion has come up at one point, and I remember, having a discussion with a senior BJP leader when he said, the moment you make this argument, then what was Nehru's government? Was it not, good for the democratic and economic health of the country? So, how would you say that was because the Congress of Nehru was itself a coalition?
Yes, it was. You're right. And I think the Nehru also, his last term, he had no good ministers. Patel was dead, Rajaji had left, and other people had gone to the states. So even Nehru later on became isolated and too much depended on him. So I think you need a vigorous cabinet system where 8 or 10 highly qualified ministers with portfolios assigned to them on the basis of their expertise, who work under the overall supervision and direction of the Prime Minister. But today you hear, like everything is stuck in the PMO. I was talking to a friend recently about one of our top educational institutions. And the governing body of that institution, it's one of our absolute top educational institutions. The new governing body has not been constituted for a year because the PMO has not approved the names.
Right.
Why should not be at the education? So this is the kind of maniacal centralization of power. Yeah,
that kind
centralization
of
of power.
micromanagement is there, and this is something which was there also during the years that Mr. Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat.
That's right.
Having studied his chief ministerial tenure quite well, this is what we can say, that virtually the same model has kind of
Correct.
been brought here. Now there are two things which I think I want to move away from just the 6 years, but purely as a historian, and that too the biographer of Gandhi. This is of course also the 75th anniversary year of his assassination. 2023, very recently we actually marked, and this is going to go on. Now, in this entire publicity which was created over Amrit Mahotsav of India's 75th anniversary, it was completely forgotten that it was also the 75th anniversary of Gandhi's assassination. As a historian, as somebody who studied Gandhi very closely, how do you feel about this complete neglect of Gandhi at one point, yet the constant championing of Gandhi? I know you have a problem with the word Bapu, but not an opportunity is spared by anybody in the BJP or in the government to kind of prop up Gandhi in order to legitimize themselves. You have Gandhi's images virtually everywhere within the government logo, several programs on currency notes.
The currency note has been there from before. I mean, the only here it's there on Swachh Bharat, of course.
Swachh Bharat, I was actually.
By and large, of course, when I talked about this great battle between two forms of Hinduism, that's a battle between Gandhi and the RSS. And the RSS and the BJP cadres deeply detest Gandhi, dislike or detest Gandhi. In fact, there's a WhatsApp University and YouTube channels are replete with videos demonizing Gandhi, mocking Gandhi, making fun of Gandhi. And that's what most BJP people feel. I mean, but in public, when you're a minister or you're a prime minister, you know that Gandhi is the most recognized Indian abroad. So you at least pay some token obeisance to him. But you never take on board his most fundamental teaching, which is non-violence, courtesy, and above all, Hindu-Muslim harmony. That's what Gandhi lived and died for. Now, you will never find that. You will find Modi quoting Gandhi on sanitation or on charkha, but never on this whole question of inter-religious harmony. Yeah, on pluralism, which is really what was the essence of Gandhi's credo. So, there is a fundamental disjunction between the BJP's ideology and that of Gandhi. And I think the BJP knows it and is happy to acknowledge it. They are actually anti-Gandhi. They see Gandhi as weak, effeminate, preaching pacifism, and as being too soft on Muslims. That's how they see Gandhi, and they would like to go beyond Gandhi. Bose is being propped up as an alternative to Gandhi because he's macho, he's masculine, he wears the uniform, and so on and so forth. So I think this regime intellectually, politically, culturally, actually despises Gandhi. That's the real truth. Though they may not publicly say it, that's the real truth.
One last question to you. As a historian, how do you respond to the concerted effort since 2014 to rewrite history by this regime? Efforts to rewrite history is nothing new. It has happened in the past. Right from the days of P.C. Chandar, we have seen that. It also happened during the Vajpayee regime. But how is it different now?
So I haven't really studied it very carefully. But when, say, our Home Minister talks about, writing history afresh, it seems to me that all it means is portraying Hindus as noble and great and Muslims as devilish and villains. So it means it means always painting Muslim rulers in the darkest colors and Hindu rulers in the in the lightest hues. So there's nothing else to it. It's not, history is about many other things. History is a curiosity about how our ancestors lived in the past, what they wore, or what they ate, what technologies they adopted, what relations they had with one another, what their forms of architecture were, what kind of culture and music did they patronize, But that all those things are what a historian also studies. What is the ecological context and landscape of settlements in the past? How do they deal with the forests, with the water, with the air? But here they have a very monochromatic view of rewriting history, which is to say, Mughals bad, Shivaji and Rana Pratap good. Nothing more. It's a very crude, impoverished, apart from being ideological, it's a very crude, narrow-minded, impoverished understanding of how historians work. And it will only attract, paid party hacks who want photographs with Amit Shah or Narendra Modi to promote their books. It won't attract scholars of any credibility.
Right. Well, thank you, Ram Guha, for having spent so much of time. We have talked about a lot of negatives, but I think I will take your optimism, as a lingering thought that there is possibly, some light at the end of the tunnel. Congratulations once again for this very important book, the third edition, revised and updated. I'm sure that a large number of readers, people who still want to read serious history, not the WhatsApp and the YouTube channels history, they would actually pick up your book. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more interesting updates.